Cat, shut up! Good morning to you, wherever you are, because it is...
Morning Subway!
For January 31st, 2025. My name is Burnie Burns. Sitting right over there, one of the quirkiest people I know in the entire world. It's Mr. Chris Demarais. Say hi to Chris, everybody.
Hi, Chris.
I take it so literally. Chris, do you think of yourself as a unique thinker?
I don't know if I think of myself as a unique thinker. I know
I do.
I know I'm a weird person. Like I've come to terms with that.
Have you always been kind of a weird guy?
Yeah.
Like, what's your background? Because I know you came from University of Texas, came from TSTV. We worked together at Rooster Teeth for a very long time. Very long time. How long? See, I wasn't there for the last few years, but you were there a total of how many years?
Well, I don't know if you not counting about 9 or 10 months of contract.
It counted.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then over 14 years.
It's insane. Yeah. You got to be in like top 5%. Like for people who stayed there a long time. People stayed there a long time, but you came in very early as well.
When I was hired, it said I was the 11th employee, but I think there had been, a couple, some people left and came, before then. But at that time, I was the 11th.
Oh, you were of the current count. You were 11.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. So then you would have worked at the Congress office, right?
Yeah, that was when I worked there when I was doing contract.
When you were contract.
Yeah, because I remember hauling that dolly up those stairs.
That red dolly that we had. Man, back in those days, I remember especially what we call the live action filmmaking equipment. So basically what people think of as like movie making equipment, cameras, stuff like that.
The stuff that isn't an Xbox.
You got it. There you go. So stupidly expensive, all of that stuff. And like it took us way too long to get a dolly. We were using like shopping carts and everything else. I mean, office chairs.
All through college, my buddy Zach Ganner, who was in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
We used his wheelchair.
Zach was your dolly?
Yeah. Well, that's actually more generous than it was. He'd be like, all right, I'm going to, and he'd hop out of his chair and lay on the ground and we would sit in his chair and use his wheelchair as a
He
dolly.
would get a break and just rest and you would use the chair?
A break is in he would lay on the ground at, in the middle of campus.
Yeah, or in a field somewhere or something. Zach had, I think, he went viral the most amount of times for something different. Like he kept going viral. Like he had YouTube videos about himself that went viral. And then he was on that Oprah Winfrey show that he ended up winning. Spoiler, if you're going to go back in your backlog and watch Oprah Winfrey's show from like, what was that, 2011, 2012?
2011, yeah.
Yeah. And how much money did he give to TSTV for winning that show?
I don't know.
I'm never going to make a donation like that.
I'm going to say maybe 100,000, but that could be wrong. I'm pulling that out of my butt.
It was a lot of money, right?
Well, considering the student television station was built off of leftover equipment,
right?
From probably when you went there was whenever, we were probably still using the same equipment when I went to school there that you used whenever you were there, which was.
Yeah, maybe. But you probably weren't using like tapes, were you?
Yeah.
Like high 8 tapes and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Really in the cameras?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Well, in mini DV mostly.
Yeah, so he probably, by winning that show, probably brought them into the modern era. We're talking about University of Texas has Texas Student Television. It's where, especially if you weren't a film student, which you were, you could go and get your hands on equipment, which was surprisingly hard at a very well-endowed university. They have a $60 billion endowment.
You know what we did in college?
What'd you do?
They had equipment. You could get equipment through film classes, right? But you had to be enrolled in certain classes in order to get the equipment. And then they had equipment at TSTV that you could rent out. But again, this was old stuff that's no good. We went and registered for a public access TV show in Austin because their equipment was really good.
It was.
And so
So
we did that. We didn't really like make any content because we were making it for student television, but we just got the registration and took the classes and paid the fee so we could check out their good equipment.
Yep. Yeah. Well, that's the resource, right? It's a public resource, so that's what you should use it for. Did you ever run into Alex Jones there? No.
We could have. That's whenever he was getting started.
Yeah, and he was on Austin Access. Yeah. At that time, maybe 20. What would that have been, like 2010?
In public, that would have been around. I did
Because he was doing
television from 2005 to 2009.
Okay, there you go. Yeah. You might have run into him down there.
But I'd already done. That's how like what I did when I was a wee lad was I started making movies when I was like in middle school, and I did a public access TV show with my friends in high school. So I just did like a weird variety comedy show.
Where'd you grow up?
Longview, Texas.
Longview, yeah.
All right. Matthew McConaughey's from my high school.
What is your background though? Were you like a theater kid? Because you kind of have like a theater kid personality.
Yeah.
Like a drama club kid.
Yeah, I did theater for a year, but then I decided I wanted to make movies instead, which is kind of dumb.
So you went off and just started filming.
Well, you only have so many electives, right, in high school. And I remember, I was in band for a bit, right?
Right.
I played the trumpet, and I was like going through my electives, and I was like, okay, I think I'm going to quit band. My decision making was I'm going to do two things. I'm either going to make movies or I'm going to be in a famous punk band, and that was it for me.
The two career paths. That's like the most Chris decision of all time.
But I realized I was like, I can't sing, and I'm not that good at guitar.
Oh, that would be very difficult for the punk path.
Yeah. So I think I made the right decision. We can't be sure.
Never know. You could have been amazing at punk. It would have been. You would have set the punk world on fire. I don't know. I'm glad you ended up in filmmaking.
Yeah, me too.
And now Chris, post Rooster Teeth, is now part of the Tales from the Stinky Dragon crew and the Good Morning from Hell group.
Yeah.
What's it been like starting two businesses in one summer, basically?
Oh, yeah. So,
yep.
Tales from Stinky Dragon is I love making that show because it's just like storytelling, like we just get to tell like radio dramas is how I think of it, like the old school way, because it's just like it's a mix of writing and improv, and it's a D&D show. But if you don't need to know D&D to listen to it. And then the content we get to make from it, like we do animated, we do puppets, that's all really fun. That's just like I just primarily work more just on the creative for that. With Good Morning from Hell, it's just me and Blaine Gibson.
Right.
And so
two different groups.
Yeah. And which means and Good Morning from Hell is a smaller show. It's one where I'm dead and we interview people in hell. You were on it. You were Ben Franklin, which is our founding daddy.
That was fun. That was a lot of fun doing that.
Yeah. It was very funny.
That was actually started too as a Rooster Teeth production. Mm-hmm. And it really kind of started the trend of doing more like varied podcasts style wise. Because up until that point, the podcasts were popular personalities, probably from a show, and then just put them on a mic together and have them chat to each other, right? That was really most of the podcast. But this was one of the first ones that was a narrative, essentially. Improv elements to it, sure, but it's telling a story and its characters, and you're building a narrative on the fly. And it was one of the first ones to do that. Yeah,
it's a weird badge of honor. Good Morning from Hell was the first audio only podcast that Rooster Teeth made, but besides the Drunk Tank podcast.
Right. Well, too, you were talking about Stinky Dragon. I love Stinky Dragon Adventures, which is the puppet show that's based on the audio. But you also write specific things for that as well, right? Yeah. That to me, and I was trying to figure out, love that show so much. I feel like Rooster Teeth, having started with Red versus Blue, I felt like that was the most Red versus Blue thing after all of those years in the history of the company, because it's a audio radio play that you make, and then you have these puppets. And Red versus Blue was essentially digital puppets, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like animation, but it's really not. It's the most live action animation you could possibly make.
Yeah, because you don't throw out your back wiggling puppets doing animation.
Is that what you guys are? You guys are under those sets you build, and like down with sticks and
we get the sets, and then we kind of layer them so we can like get under in between them, and then we were like laying on the ground and like wobbling, and it's like, oh no, for that movement, could you make their arms wiggle more, so they look more excited.
Man, there's so many little fun moments, and that comes through, but it doesn't come through in a bad way. A lot of times when I think about how they did something in a movie or a TV show, I'm like, I don't want to think about that because it draws me out of it. Somehow it draws me in more with the puppets. Like, how the hell did they get the puppet to do that? Like watching Barb's character scamper up the wall. I laugh every single time I see that. It's so funny. She climbs up a rope really fast. It kills me. I love it. I absolutely love the Stinky Dragon adventures. Always have. I would write Barbara about it all the time. Do you find too, it's like when the Stinky Dragon audience, when you guys appear on camera, they're shocked to see what you look like since they're newer fans?
Yeah, a lot of people are like, this is not what I pictured their voices at all. I saw
Also, that's very red versus blue because we were animation guys. And the only people that people knew on site were Gus because he was in that video we made about the Apple gaming parody. And he was the only one that was ever recognized by anybody.
So we are partnering with Critical Role for Stinky Dragon.
What's that like? Is that fun?
It's great. They're like too nice. I'm worried like they're too good for us. You know what I mean? But no, they've been great. And so our content has been on their platform Beacon, and then we're also doing some collaborations.
Critical Role, by the way, for you listening, if you don't know, massive online production company. They really, I think, they didn't start the whole playing Dungeons and Dragons as a show, but they definitely were the people that took it mainstream and maximized that. It's an industry now of people playing D&D for shows now. Yeah.
Oh, it's huge. It's huge. We were excited because there was a Variety article about Critical Role, and because we were mentioned as new people they were partnering with. So it was like,
that's cool.
Like I was like, that's how they're, it's like they're selling out stadiums for live shows and things.
I saw you guys got called out by Patreon as well. Because of the shift of like a lot of the producers and creators from Rooster Teeth moving over to Patreon. This podcast is also on Patreon. They called you guys out specifically as one of those groups. I thought that was pretty nice little
Patreon
pat on the back.
Yeah, they've been great. Like they're really great to work with.
Yeah,
and I don't know. It's like it's.
You talking about the people at Patreon or just the platform in general?
Both.
Yeah,
I mean the people we've interacted with have been really great.
I don't think I've talked to a single person at Patreon. Is that a thing we can do? Do you like go ask for stuff?
Well, it's not so much that. I guess whenever we were going independent, we someone had a contact, and so we reached out to them and kind of developed some sort of relationship. And now we'll talk with them, and they'll be like, "Oh, hey, we're thinking about releasing this new feature. Would you want to beta test it?" And it's cool.
That is cool.
Yeah.
So for Good Morning from Hell, you work with Blaine Gibson, who's been on this podcast before. And then you have about 7 people, right, for Stinky Dragon?
Yeah.
And then, of course, Rooster Teeth was, up to 400 people. You were there for basically every different version.
Iteration.
Is it fair to say scale affects things differently, but can you even notice the scale between 7 and 2?
Yes, absolutely. Right? Absolutely. Because when they're 7, even though we're making way more content and animations and video, all this stuff for Stinky Dragon, I still primarily focus more on like the making the content, editing the content, just like focusing more on that. I mean, there's still the business. We're all talking about the business kind of stuff, but with Good Morning from Hell, it's just me and Blaine. So all the business stuff we do, and we're not very good at it. I told this story before, but we started a bank account and set it up, went to the bank, we're business people.
For the audience, I just want to say, Chris made like a walking motion, like his arms, like he's walking to the bank, and then shook his own hand.
Yeah. Well, me and Blaine shook hands afterwards. Like, yeah, we started a bank account. Within an hour or two, Blaine had texted me like, hey, I accidentally sent money to my mom from our bank account.
Oh my God.
Like I mixed it up with my account. I'll send it back. And then he did the same thing the next day to his girlfriend.
Oh my God. What is he, like Venmoing people and using your checking account?
He was Zelle. He was like, and he just the memo just said to mom.
Oh my God.
But
explain that to the IRS.
Yeah, oh no, I have way more to explain to the IRS.
Really?
My mess up was, so when you start a LLC, you got to like register it, right? So we went through a company that does all the paperwork. You pay them and they do everything to like, file the LLC paperwork. They did that. We got our LLC and I'm like, okay, in order to start a bank account and get a credit card or anything like that, we need to get a tax ID number, right?
Yeah.
Which is just like a social security number for a business. So I went onto the government thing. I'm like, I want a tax ID thing. And I filled out that, got a tax ID, and then like I had a Google Drive that's like business stuff. And I threw that tax ID thing. We started our bank, blah, blah, blah. 2 weeks ago, we're starting to do stuff for like taxes, and I'm gathering together all of our tax documents. And I realized that the company that we hired to do the LLC, they also applied for a tax ID number. And it had been in the same folder, and we were using both of them.
No. Really?
Yeah.
So this is the equivalent if at home, if you don't have a business, an EIN number, right?
Yeah.
Number. This is like using someone else's social security number on when you apply for a job and they've been taking taxes out of the wrong social security.
Well, and it's a little different than that. Because
how did you get, now wait a minute.
I don't
the company
know,
you hired.
I don't know, Burnie.
How would they have given you their EIN?
No. They applied for one too.
I thought you were saying that the company applied for its own EIN. That's the other company. So you somehow had two EINs for one company.
Yeah.
What the hell do you do in that?
I don't know,
this is
Burnie.
Such a
I
colossal
don't know.
mistake.
I don't know, Burnie. I'm trying to figure it out.
You have two different companies, basically.
No, and we were so inconsistent. Sometimes we'd get like for you have to submit your EID whenever for anything business, for a bank account, for like Patreon, for our fourth wall, which we sell our merch through, and then we use different because they were just in the same folder. It's whichever one I saw first, I would enter in.
Listen, if you don't know, there's two, of course. Yeah.
So I had to go track down. And I was hoping it'd be like, oh well, we only use this EID number once, but no, it's split evenly, like exactly evenly.
Oh my god.
It's so I don't know.
So you can't even choose which one you want to go with. There's not an obvious choice.
Yeah, I think we're just gonna go with the one that had the bank account because I don't want to go back to the bank and explain to the lady what happened.
That's a good call. And then you might want to look. I'm trying to think of anywhere else it goes. Like we have franchise tax and things like that. Here's the bottom line.
Oh shoot. Yeah, man. Burnie.
Chris, sorry. The main thing is take a deep breath.
Yeah.
Don't panic. It's going to be okay. It all works out. You have professionals helping you. You know, people get really scared about this
Blaine
stuff.
is not.
Well, you hired this other company and they applied for it for you.
They just applied for it. We are working with accountants to help.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah.
Okay. It'll take some work. You are definitely unfucking something.
Yeah.
But
it's not my first time unfucking.
You might have to file as both companies. This is not tax advice, by the way. I would consult with a professional. You might have to file as both.
Yeah,
and then unwind one of them.
I think that's what we need to do. Is just like pick one and then and then we got to pay taxes on it, no matter what. But it's like, hey, we're gonna claim both of these numbers, and then this one's gonna go away. Yeah.
The good news is about this is that when you're first starting out,
you don't make any money.
Right, you're not making as much. You're probably spending more. Well, so it's just
especially with Good Morning from Hell because me and Blaine are primarily focused on Stinky Dragon. So that's like our full-time job, and we're doing Good Morning from Hell on the side on weekends. Yeah, and we're paying people to do all the post because we don't have time to do it. So the money that comes in from it, it's all going to post-production for other people and now accountants.
You talk about like the relationship with Critical Role and how they're all super nice. Have you watched the Saturday Night Live movie that just came out?
I did.
See, what'd you think about that? Like,
I liked it a lot.
I was amazed at how they portrayed Jim Henson in that and how they were all like horrible to Jim Henson the entire time.
Yeah, he was like a puppet. He was a punchline.
They were like making fun of this super nice guy that's beloved all over the world. And they were just showing how they were all just harassing this guy and making fun of him. And it takes place. I love it. I highly recommend it. It's the first episode ever of Saturday Night Live in 1975. And I think it's real time. It's like the hour and a half before the first show goes live.
It's really good. It's just got a lot of energy and a great cast that do great impersonations of the original cast.
I was really impressed by that too.
Yeah.
Some of those people, who do you think did a really good one? Like, was there anyone that stood out to you?
I don't know. I thought they were all. It's watching it. You're like, oh wait, who is that? Oh, and then it clicks. Yeah,
right. The guy who did Chevy Chase to me, I was kind of shocked at how much, because Chevy Chase is a really unique looking guy, and they found a guy who doesn't look exactly like him, but
he has his delivery is very Chevy.
And the Dan Aykroyd, the actor, we should know these actors' names, but the delivery of the Dan Aykroyd shtick, the guy nailed it. Like they did a fantastic job. Even like the guy who played John Belushi was great. Great.
Yeah.
Also, it was really interesting to like watch a behind the scenes of like how people were saying the production went, and they were like cutthroat. Like they were fighting with each other and cutting each other down all the time. And it was like, that was shocking to me. Was that shocking to you?
No.
Yeah.
I've been on productions before.
Have you? Like, is
Nothing dramatized to that extent, right?
I always think about this with casting, because when you're acting in something, you really have to trust the vision of the person behind the camera or running the project. And sometimes you don't know. And I feel bad for actors sometimes when they're in something and they're like, they probably didn't know it was going to turn out like this. I learned to trust you early on because you were part of the team where you said, we want to do an office tour because the fans were asking about it. And the overall spirit of it was supposed to be like the Winnebago Man documentary.
Well, you and Matt were like, hey, we keep getting requests for office tour. And we're like, can we just film a video giving a tour of the office so that we could stop getting requests? And then that way they'll know what the office looks like.
Also, people would just show up at the front door
to
get a tour. Yeah.
But and I remember being like, yeah, but let's do something fun with it.
Yes. And you had this idea of like, it'll be kind of like inspired by, it was like, if you have like the idea board, the mood board, it's like you have the Winnebago Man, which was a thing where they were shooting a promotional video for a Winnebago and it went wrong. And very famously, it's like a cult, one of those pre-internet passed around on video cassette things. And I admit it, when I went into it, I was like, I don't really get this. Like, this seems like one note and I don't know how it's going to turn out, but I was like, I'm just going to go with this. And that was the production where I learned to trust you, because it turned out so well, so very well. And you guys just killed it. And I loved it. And I got to have fun. Yeah. And to this day, people still bring that one up to me.
Yeah. Oh, you were great in it. Here's what I'll say this. It's very easy to make good stuff when you have good people in it.
Ah, look at that. It's very nice.
And I mean that, like, I don't know. It's so much. It's so easy whenever it's cast right.
I know what you mean.
Then it's like
all the pieces. You probably think about the casting piece because you're part of one of the other pieces that automatically gets filled in. But it is nice when you go work on a production and it's like you can just tell when all the pieces line up and they fit together well, and you're like, oh my God, this is so refreshing and it's so awesome. Sometimes you can just feel it in the moment. You know?
Yeah.
And you know it's gonna work.
You feel it's like it feels almost effortless.
Is there a particular production that you can recall that's like that for you?
I mean, besides this one.
Hey, look at that. You're beside Morning Somewhere. I love it. Yeah, no, I mean, Gauntlet Season 2 is one that I would have called out as that as well. You know, it just, especially compared to the first one, you know? And then some of the stuff we did on immersion and things like that, sometimes it just feels like it's right, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's where, like, you talk about the Saturday Night Live thing. You see, like, these people, I'm sure it's hyped up because it's a movie and you have to have conflict. Lorne Michaels is putting together a show that no one's ever seen. We all know what Saturday Night Live is now because we have the luxury of having seen it a billion times, but they didn't know what they were making. And like, of course, that's going to cause a lot of conflict and contention and concern and worry, you know, and embarrassment and everything else. And so that leads to just conflict, you know, people being upset and expressing that to each other.
Yeah. But sometimes good stuff comes from conflict. You know, it creates, it makes the good stuff rise to the top sometimes.
That's true. Yeah.
But I mean, not always. Sometimes conflict just sucks.
All right, Chris, well, please tell us, how can we go witness your current endeavors out there in the world?
Well, anywhere you're listening to podcasts, go look up Tales from the Stinky Dragon, and you can start on any campaign. You can start at the beginning of the first campaign, or you could start on our more recent third campaign. But it's like narrative, listen to it. It's fun. And you can also watch the videos that you're talking about. That's on all of our social media, but probably the easiest place is go to YouTube. Look for Stinky Dragon. You can find all of our puppets and animations. And then for Good Morning from Hell, anywhere you listen to podcasts, just search Good Morning from Hell. And we started a brand new YouTube channel, which is like, we're kind of doing some like weird hybrid animation because there's not a video component for it, where we just take the art that was made for the thumbnail and then like made a 4-camera studio setup.
Okay.
Where it cuts whenever people speak, you know, it's like cutting to their shot.
I
So
see.
it's like
So your thumbnail is usually the two hosts and then whoever the guest is.
Yeah.
So you're cutting between those those three images then essentially.
I made a really
Yeah.
elaborate Premiere sequence where it's like it's plug and play. You just sub in the host and then it like presets all the different templates for everything, and then you can just like cut between the different actors.
And then, of course, for both Tales from the Stinky Dragon and for Good Morning from Hell, you have a Patreon. So you can always visit patreon.com and look up those productions as well if you'd like to support them. Well, Chris, thank you very much for stopping by and spending the morning with us. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
It was nice to walk down memory lane with you. We didn't even get to any current events.
I know. Oh, man, I wanted to talk about that. You sent, can I say one thing?
Yeah, sure.
So you sent several different articles to talk about, right?
Yeah.
One of them was about this, asteroid where they found all these like possible elements that could lead to human life. And it's like the headline was, did we come from aliens, or are we aliens, or something like that, right? And then the article you sent below that was a system about a new thing where they're trying to determine whether or not books were written by humans.
Right. The Authors Guild now has guidelines of how much of a book has to be written by AI before it's not a human, basically.
When I first kind of like looked through them, my brain mixed those up, and I thought there was a new society that was going through all our books to determine which ones were written by aliens.
Chris, yeah. Hey, listen, I don't want to say those headlines were themed, but when I saw the asteroid that could potentially prove that humans started from aliens, I would say, okay, that asteroid would be our number one proof. My second most reliable proof would be Chris Demarais. That we always described you as like an alien who came to Earth and was pretending to be a human as best he could and doing his best effort to do that.
I think decent job.
I was 8 out of 10.
Hey, when you cast the right people, the role is good.
When you put him in the right environment, everything just clicks so well. All right, Chris. Well, thanks for joining us. Listen, we're done for the whole week here, so I will be back to talk to you with a new guest on Monday. Maybe another cast member from Tales from the Stinky Dragons. We are heading into Stinktuary, a big promotional month for you guys. So tune in on Monday to find out who that is. I'll be here to talk to you. I hope you'll be here as well.
Thank you so much. Bye.